The twin suns of Sable Rim hung low in the sky, their fading light turning the wide plains a deep shade of burnt gold. The wind was restless that evening, carrying with it the scent of dry soil and metallic dust from old mining fields. On this lonely frontier world, storms came and went without warning, sweeping over everything like moving walls of sand. To most settlers, the storms meant danger. To Jace Rourke, they were simply another part of life. Jace rode across the cracked earth on his hover horse, a two-seater transport shaped like a mechanical Mustang, stable enough to survive the rough terrain. The machine hummed low beneath him while he scanned the horizon with a small handheld device. He had been out all day, searching for his runaway terraform drones. The little machines had a habit of wandering off whenever the magnetic storms grew strong, and retrieving them was always a chore. Jace sighed as he leaned forward. "Just one more drone," he muttered to himself. "Hope you ain't rolled into a canyon." His voice was calm, slow, and tired in that familiar cowboy way, like someone who had lived on the frontier too long to be surprised by much. Suddenly, the scanner in his hand beeped. Jace frowned and tapped the screen. The reading was strange. It wasn't showing a drone signal. It wasn't showing any machine signature he recognized. Instead, it displayed a large, warm shape, moving slowly across the plains. Not an animal either. Too big. Too heavy. "Now what do we have here?" he said softly. He urged the hover horse forward. The machine responded with a steady glide across the plain. The sun dipped lower as he approached the heat signature, and winds began to pick up, tossing sand into swirling patterns. After a few minutes, Jace saw a shadow through the dust. It was tall, taller than any human. It walked with uneven, stumbling steps, like someone exhausted or injured. Jace slowed the hover horse and raised a hand to block the blowing sand. "Hey there!" he called out. The figure froze. For a moment, Jace wondered if he'd made a mistake. But then the shadow moved again, stepping forward until the storm revealed the stranger fully. She was a Draconian. Jace sucked in a sharp breath. He had never seen one this close. The Draconians were a proud, ancient alien species, resembling dragons from old Earth stories, tall, scaled, powerful, and hardly ever found on simple frontier planets like Sable Rim. Her scales were a deep obsidian black with faint red lines glowing beneath them, as though lit by distant embers. But those scales were scratched and dull, marked with signs of recent battle. Her breathing was heavy. Her wings, folded against her back, hung low with exhaustion. She carried no weapons, no armor, only a torn travel cloak. Her sharp golden eyes studied Jace cautiously. Jace swallowed, though he kept his voice steady. "You are right there?" The Draconian straightened slightly. Her voice was deep and resonant, yet weak. "Human? I am lost." That was not the answer Jace expected. Most Draconians he'd heard about were confident, proud, and commanding. This one sounded tired. So tired she was barely standing. Jace tipped his hat in a polite gesture. "Well, if you're lost, then come along. I can get you out of this storm." The Draconian blinked, visibly surprised. She had expected fear or suspicion, maybe even hostility. But not this simple, calm invitation from a dusty human lone ranger. "Why would you help me?" she asked. Jace shrugged, adjusting the reins of his hover horse. "'Cause you look like you could use it. Storm's getting worse. Ain't no sense in leaving someone out here." She studied him a moment longer. The wind howled between them. Finally, she dipped her head slightly. "Very well." Jace shifted to make space on the hover horse. "You can ride behind me. It's steady enough to carry two." The Draconian hesitated. For her kind, accepting help, especially from a smaller species, was something rare. But she was in no condition to walk. With slow movements, she climbed onto the transport, her heavy weight making the machine groan before stabilizing. Jace powered the hover horse forward, steering through the storm toward his ranch outpost. Sand whipped at both of them, but the machine's front shield protected them from most of the blast. After several minutes of silent travel, Jace glanced back. "What's your name?" he asked. "Valira," she replied. "Pretty name," he said casually. "I'm Jace." Valira did not answer. Her gaze remained fixed on the horizon, but Jace could tell she was struggling to stay awake. Her wings trembled and her breathing was uneven. "You hurt?" Jace asked. "Not wounded," she said, "but exhausted. I have traveled far." "You get caught in the storm?" "No," she said softly. "I crashed." Jace raised an eyebrow. "Crashed? From where?" She didn't answer immediately. The silence stretched until the wind swallowed her voice. "A pirate ambush," she finally whispered. "My ship was attacked." Jace didn't push for more. He knew the frontier was full of dangers, pirates, raiders, scavengers, and a Draconian ship would be valuable prey for criminals. The hover horse glided over a ridge, and the ranch outpost came into view, a simple structure built of reinforced steel and old colony wood. Lights flickered on automatically as the sensors detected Jace's return. The building was small but sturdy, designed to withstand storms far worse than this one. Valira stared at it. "This is your home?" "Yep," Jace replied. "Ain't fancy, but it does the job." When they reached the entrance, Valira stepped off the hover horse slowly. Her legs wobbled, and Jace quickly moved to support her. She was easily twice his size, but he steadied her with surprising strength for a human. "Careful now," he said. "Let's get you inside." Valira allowed herself to lean on him, not out of weakness, but because she sensed a strange reliability in this human. He guided her into the outpost, where warm lights and a faint smell of cooked rations greeted them. Jace helped her sit on a reinforced bench meant for heavy equipment. The bench creaked but held firm. "Stay there," he said. "I'll get some water." He returned with a large container of mineral water and held it out. Valira drank deeply, finishing half the container in seconds. When she finally stopped, her breathing eased slightly. "You humans," she murmured, "are unusual." Jace chuckled. "We get that a lot." She looked around the small outpost, old tools hanging from the walls. A workbench covered in half-fixed machines, a small heater unit humming steadily. It was simple, but warm, safe. "It is peaceful," she said softly. "Most days," Jace replied. "Storms keep things interesting, though." Valira lowered her gaze. Her voice grew quieter. "My ship was destroyed. My crew, gone. I escaped in a pod, but the pirates chased me. I do not know where I landed." "Lucky you landed near a ranch," Jace said gently. "Planes are dangerous at night. Lots of places a person could fall and not get back up." Valira exhaled slowly. Her shoulders sagged, as if the weight of her journey was finally catching up. "I was searching for the ones who killed my mate," she said. "But now, I am lost." Jace paused. He could hear the pain behind her words, even if she tried to hide it. He didn't know much about Draconian traditions, but he knew that losing a mate must be devastating. "Well," he said, leaning against the wall, "you ain't alone anymore. Take your time. Rest. When you're ready, we'll figure things out." Valira looked up at him, surprised again by his simple kindness. Humans were supposed to be fragile, emotional, short-lived. Yet this one stood firm, calm, and steady like the ground beneath their feet. "Why do you trust me?" she asked quietly. Jace shrugged. "Ain't about trust. It's about not leaving someone out in the dust to die. Doesn't matter who they are." Valira lowered her gaze. Her claws tightened around the water container. For the first time in weeks, she felt something other than grief, something warm, steady, and unfamiliar. Hope. The wind outside howled as the storm reached its peak, but inside the small ranch outpost, the warmth of human hospitality wrapped around the weary dragon widow like a protective blanket. Valera closed her eyes, letting silence settle. Jace watched her for a moment, then nodded to himself. "Get some rest," he said. "You're safe here." And for the first time since her ship fell from the sky, Valera believed it. Morning arrived slowly on Sable Rim, the sky turning from deep purple to soft orange as the twin suns rose. The storm from last night had passed, leaving behind calm plains and long shadows stretching across the cracked ground. The air smelled fresh, carrying the gentle scent of heated soil and distant scrub plants. Inside Jace Rourke's ranch outpost, a soft humming sound came from the heater unit, while faint beams of sunlight slipped through the metal blinds. Valera opened her eyes, blinking several times to adjust to the brightness. She was lying on the reinforced bench, her wings carefully folded behind her. Her entire body still felt heavy, but not as weak as before. Rest had helped. For a moment, she didn't move. She simply listened. She could hear the hum of machines, the slow ticking of cooling metal, and the low sound of something boiling. Food, she guessed. The environment felt peaceful, almost strangely so. No alarms, no pirate scanners, no stress of survival, only quiet. She sat up slowly, her claws resting lightly against the floor. She had never been inside a human household before, not this closely, not this personally. She looked around with curious golden eyes. The outpost was small but organized in its own rustic way. Tools were neatly hung on the walls, coils of wire stacked in corners. And a large shelf filled with spare machine parts stood near the door. It was not elegant, not advanced, and definitely not anything like a Draconian home. But it carried a warmth she did not expect. Jace appeared from the small kitchen space, holding a steaming mug in one hand and a bowl in the other. He wore the same dust-covered coat from yesterday, his hat slightly pushed back on his head. His expression was relaxed as always, like he had walked through storms and chaos so often that nothing surprised him anymore. "Oh, you're awake," he said with a nod. "Good timing. Breakfast's ready." Valera watched him carefully. "You cook for travelers?" He chuckled lightly. "Only the ones who fall out of the sky." She gave him a slow, puzzled look, and he grinned. "That means yes." She didn't understand the joke, but she accepted the bowl he offered. The food was a simple mix of heated grains and dried fruit, frontier food. It was nothing like the nutrient-rich meals from her world, but after days of hunger, it tasted comforting. "You humans eat this every morning?" she asked. "Most days," he replied. "Sometimes with spice, sometimes without. Depends on what I've got left." Valera tilted her head. "Your supplies are limited." "Frontier life," Jace said casually, sipping from his mug. "You learn to make do?" Valera ate in silence, observing him. Humans were small compared to Draconians, weaker in physical strength, and far shorter-lived. Yet this human stood before her with a quiet confidence she rarely saw, even among warriors. It puzzled her. After finishing the bowl, Valera placed it down. "Thank you," she said softly. "No trouble," he replied. "How are you feeling?" "Better," she answered. "Still tired, but stronger." "Good," he said, leaning back against the counter. "Still got that fire in your eyes. That's a good sign." Valera didn't respond, though she wondered how he noticed something so small. Outside, the wind picked up slightly, rattling the loose metal plates on the roof. Valera's sharp gaze shifted toward the sound, her instincts alert. "Just the morning breeze," Jace assured. "Ground still adjusting after the storm." Valera took a breath, calming her instincts. Her people were warriors, trained to react fast to danger. Resting near a stranger was unusual. Trusting one was even more unusual, but something about this human felt grounded. Jace moved toward the workbench and picked up a damaged drone, one of the small terraforming machines he had been hunting yesterday. Its casing was cracked, wires hanging out like dried roots. "Storm banged it up real good," he said. Valira stood slowly and walked over. "This is human technology?" "Yeah," he answered. "Old model but reliable. Just needs a bit of patching." She crouched beside him, observing the machine. Her claws traced the broken part without touching. "You fix your own machines?" "If I don't, nobody will," he said with a chuckle. "Out here, the nearest repair shop is a 2-day ride." Valira stared at the drone. Draconian technology was advanced, efficient, elegant in design. Humans, on the other hand, built things that looked crude, yet durable. Their machines survived storms, crashes, and even mistakes. And they kept working. "You humans are strange," she said quietly. "Oh, I get that every now and then," Jace joked. She turned toward him. "Your race. You survive with so little." Jace shrugged. "We survive because we don't quit. That's how humans are." Valira considered this thoughtfully. Her people valued strength, honor, and power. Humans seemed to value persistence, clever thinking, and heart. Different strengths, but important ones. After a moment, Jace wiped his hands and stood. "Tell me more about what happened," he said softly. "Only if you feel ready." Valira tensed slightly. Her claws curled against the floor. Pain flashed in her eyes before she controlled it. "My ship," she began, voice low, "was attacked by the Void Marauders." Jace's expression hardened. He had heard of them, ruthless pirates who raided ships for tech, resources, or captives. "They hunted us for hours," Valira continued. "We tried to escape, but our engines were damaged. My mate, he was the captain. He fought to protect us." Her voice wavered. She paused, steadying herself. "He ordered me into the escape pod. I did not want to leave him, but he made me go." Jace didn't speak. He didn't interrupt. He let her share the weight at her own pace. "When I launched, I saw the pirates firing on the ship. I watched it burn in the atmosphere of another world." Her claws tightened. I could do nothing. Silence filled the room. Finally, Jace said softly, "I'm sorry. That ain't a thing anyone should go through." Valira nodded, though her golden eyes held deep, quiet sorrow. "I tracked them across systems. I thought I knew where they were going, but they turned on me. Attacked. My pod was damaged. I fell here." "Lucky for you," Jace replied gently. "This planet's got at least one friendly rancher." Valira stared at him. "You helped me, without knowing who I am, without asking anything." Jace shrugged. "Don't need a reason to do what's right." She studied him for a long moment. "Humans are unpredictable." "Thank you," Jace said jokingly. Valira almost smiled. Almost. Her scales shifted softly, a sign of easing tension. Suddenly, a sharp beep sounded from the corner. Jace moved to check the scanner panel. His relaxed expression changed to something more serious. "What is it?" Valira asked, standing tall. Jace tapped the panel. "Unidentified craft entered the atmosphere. Fast. No transponder." "Pirates?" she asked immediately, her voice rising. "Maybe," Jace said quietly. "Or maybe scavengers. Hard to know yet." Valira's wings unfolded halfway in instinct. Her posture changed, shoulders squared, eyes narrowed. Fear mixed with anger, a dangerous combination for her kind. Jace held up a hand. "Easy. Let's not assume the worst." But he didn't look relaxed. Not anymore. "Where is it headed?" Valira asked. Jace lowered his hat slightly. "Looks like it's circling, looking for something." Their eyes met. It is them, Valira said firmly. The pirates. They tracked me. Jace didn't argue. Instead, he walked to the door and locked it, then moved to pull out his old rifle from the wall. You humans expect battles in your homes? She asked. No, Jace replied, but I prepare for them anyway. Valira watched him load the rifle with steady hands. His movements were calm, efficient, and practiced. Not a warrior by race, but definitely someone who had lived through fights before. You would fight them? She asked quietly. Jace looked at her. I'm not letting you face them alone. Valira stared in disbelief. This is my battle. Then it's mine too, Jace said simply. You came along. That makes you my responsibility until you're safe. Her chest tightened, not with fear, but with something like respect. Draconians rarely felt that for other species. Jace stepped toward the window, scanning the skies. If they're looking for you, we need to be ready. Valira drew in a long breath. Her strength returned, her purpose sharpened. Our enemies, she said, her voice deepening, have no idea what waits for them here. Jace smirked. Good. Let's keep it that way. Outside, the sun climbed higher, shining over the plains. Danger was coming. But now the Dragon Widow was no longer alone. The twin suns had climbed higher in the sky by the time Jace finished checking every scanner, every rooftop sensor, and every alarm system around the ranch. The morning light was bright, but a thin haze lingered in the air from last night's storm. The plains stretched out wide and empty, yet the silence felt heavy, too heavy. Valira stood outside the outpost, her wings folded tightly behind her back. She stared up at the sky with sharp, focused eyes, her golden pupils narrowing at every flicker of movement. To her, the air itself felt disturbed. Something foreign was above the clouds, circling, watching. Jace walked out beside her, rifle slung across his shoulder. If it's the pirates, he said, they're being real patient. They are hunters, Valira replied quietly. They take their time. Jace looked up at her strong posture, her tense wings, her sharp expression. She looked ready for a fight, yet there was something uneasy beneath her calm. She wasn't afraid. Draconians rarely felt fear, but she was preparing herself for the moment she had been running from. Jace studied the horizon. Storm wiped most tracks from the ground, but air scans still show they're circling. Valira nodded. They are searching. They must not know exactly where I landed. That's something, at least, Jace said. Buys us a little time. Valira turned to him. You should not stay. This is dangerous for a human. You should ride away before they come. Jace smirked. Ain't in my nature to run. You are not a warrior of my people, she warned. The Void Marauders kill without mercy. And I fix broken drones, wrangle terraform bots, and chase storms, Jace said with a shrug. Different skills, same stubbornness. Her eyes softened with something like concern. I do not want your blood spilled because of me. Jace tapped the rifle. You ain't getting rid of me that easy. Valira stared at him for several seconds, then breathed out slowly. This human confused her. No Draconian outside her family had ever offered loyalty without any reward, and yet here stood a simple frontier cowboy refusing to leave her side. We prepare then, she said, together. Damn right, Jace answered. Inside the outpost, Jace opened a metal chest filled with old but well-maintained tools, grenade-sized flash bombs, signal disruptors, and a few EMP charges he'd built over the years. Valira eyed the devices with interest. You made these? She asked. Most of them, Jace replied. Frontier gets lonely. Tinkering keeps me busy. Valira picked up one of the EMP charges, her claws turning it over gently. This is small, but powerful, she observed. Human design is surprising. Surprising good or surprising bad? Jace asked, raising an eyebrow. Both, she answered honestly. He chuckled. Fair enough. Valira returned the EMP to the table. The marauders will not come alone. They always move in groups of 5 or more. Then we fixed the defenses, Jace said. This place wasn't built for fun. Valira followed him as he walked outside. The ranch outpost was simple, but the land around it was filled with hidden tricks. Jace had built most of them over years. Small trenches, motion sensors, shock wires, and hidden drone launch pads. He pulled open a dusty control box. System's old, but it works. Storm might have knocked a few lines out, though. I will help repair them, Valira offered. Jace raised an eyebrow. You know tech? Draconians are trained in many things, she said proudly. Battle, strategy, machines, languages. We live long lives. Well, Jace said, handing her a coil of power cable, you can start by fixing that transmitter line. Valira crouched beside the box, her claws working carefully. She connected wires, removed burnt pieces, and replaced them with fresh ones from Jace's supply. She moved with surprising delicacy for someone so strong. You got steady hands, Jace said. I was an engineer before I became a warrior, she replied without looking up. My mate always said I had patience for small things. Jace didn't respond immediately. He didn't want to reopen her pain. Instead, he tightened another bolt and checked a sensor. Within 30 minutes, the ranch's defense grid was alive again. Lights blinked, drones hummed softly in their storage nests. The perimeter beams lit up in a soft red glow. Not bad, Jace said. Valira straightened. We must be ready for anything. Jace wiped his forehead. One more thing. He walked around the back of the ranch and whistled. The ground shook slightly, and a heavy machine rose from a concealed elevator. It was a turret, an old mining defense unit modified with a new energy core. Valira's eyes widened. You did this alone? Took me 2 years, Jace said proudly. Runs on thermal batteries and solar backup. Shoots plasma bolts strong enough to scare off raiders. Valira gave a low hum of respect. You humans are full of surprises. I try, Jace said with a grin. Now let's see if it still works. He pressed a button on his wrist device, and the turret whirred to life, spinning slowly, scanning the plains. Valira felt something steady in her chest, a rare feeling among her kind. Trust. Before she could speak, the alarm from inside the ranch beeped sharply. Jace and Valira turned at the same time. The scanner screen showed a blinking red dot entering the atmosphere, fast and low. They're coming, Jace said. Valira's wings tensed. How long? 10 minutes, maybe less, Jace answered. Valira stepped forward, her tall frame growing rigid like a statue carved from black stone. I will go meet them. Not alone, Jace said firmly. Valira looked down at him, her expression unreadable. Humans are brave, but your bravery will not stop them. No, Jace agreed, lifting his rifle. But my aim might help. She stared. For a heartbeat, silence passed between them, heavy, thoughtful, meaningful. Then she nodded once, a motion full of respect. Very well, she said. We face them together. The incoming craft screamed across the sky like a silver claw. It was long, sharp, and built for speed. The pirate emblem, a jagged skull, was painted across its hull. It flew low, scanning the plains with bright red beams. They found something, Jace said quietly. Or someone, Valira replied. The craft slowed, hovering above the canyon not far from the ranch. Figures began to drop from the ship, dark shapes with metal armor and glowing visors. Void marauders, Valira growled. Jace checked his rifle scope. 5 that I can see. More inside, she warned. He nodded. Then we start smart. Valira approached the canyon edge with silent steps. Despite her large size, she moved with surprising grace. She watched the marauders spread out across the rocky ground, scanning for energy traces. Jace crouched beside her. "We take the high ground, pick 'em off slow." Valira shook her head. "They will expect that." "What do you suggest?" Jace asked. "Let them think they have found me," she replied. Jace frowned. "That sounds like letting yourself get caught." "No," Valira said. "It is letting them get close." He understood then. Valira wasn't planning to hide. She was planning to fight, directly, fiercely, the way her race was known for. "All right," Jace said, gripping his rifle. "Just give me a signal." Valira stepped onto a flat rock overlooking the canyon. Her wings unfolded slightly, catching the sunlight. The faint red glow beneath her scales brightened, like embers waking up. One of the marauders spotted movement. "Target sighted," he shouted through his speaker. Jace whispered, "Here we go." The marauders raised their weapons. Valira raised her chin. Then, with a voice that echoed through the canyon, she spoke. "I am Valira of the Draconian Guard. You killed my mate. You chased me across systems. Now you meet me here." The marauders hesitated. Even pirates felt fear when facing a Draconian warrior. Jace exhaled softly. "Signal given." He fired the first shot. The plasma bolt struck a marauder straight in the shoulder, throwing him backward. Before the others could react, Valira launched forward with incredible speed. She slammed into two pirates at once, knocking them off their feet. The canyon exploded into chaos. Jace fired again from above, picking off targets with sharp, precise shots. Valira fought below with fierce strength, claws slicing through armor, tail whipping with controlled power. Their teamwork was strange, unusual, but effective. Human precision paired with Draconian fury. But Jace noticed something else. The pirate ship above was beginning to shift. Its engines powered up, too early, too quickly. "They're calling reinforcements," Jace muttered. Valira threw another marauder into the rocks. "Then we must finish this fast," Jace gritted his teeth. "We can handle the ground, but that ship—" He paused. A new signature appeared on the scanner. Another craft, not pirate. Not theirs. Unknown. "It's getting crowded out here," Jace whispered. Valira's eyes narrowed. The battle has only begun. The wind in Ember Canyon carried sand and heat as if the land itself sensed the danger gathering. Smoke from Jace's rifle drifted into the air while Valira stood atop a broken rock, her wings spread wide, her scales glowing brighter than before. The last of the marauders on the ground groaned or fell silent, but the battle was far from over. In the sky above, the pirate ship shifted, preparing to either land or deploy more fighters. At the same time, another craft descended through the clouds, leaving a bright white trail behind it. It was smaller, sleeker, and curved like a silver feather. Valira narrowed her eyes. "That ship does not belong to the marauders." "Friend?" Jace asked. She shook her head. "I do not know it." "Great," Jace muttered. Another mystery in the middle of a fight. The canyon floor was littered with broken rocks and stunned pirates. Valira's claws dripped faint heat from the energy she had released, while smoke curled from Jace's rifle barrel. The pair stood side by side, breathing hard, but ready. The silver craft hovered above the canyon before landing gently on a flat ledge. Its door opened with a soft hiss. 3 figures stepped out. They wore protective suits with smooth armor plates, but their helmets were transparent. Their skin was pale blue, their eyes dark, their hair almost white. Valira hissed under her breath. "The Rethari." "Who are they?" Jace asked quietly. "Information brokers," she replied. "They sell secrets to anyone with enough money." Jace raised his rifle halfway. "So, not friends?" "No," she said. "Never." One of the Rethari stepped forward and lifted a hand. "Draconian Valira, the alien said in a calm, cold voice. "We are not here to harm you." Valira's wings tightened. "Then why come?" "To make an exchange," the Rithari answered. "We know what you seek, and we know where your mate's killers are going." Jace blinked. "That sounds like a trap." The Rithari tilted his head. "It is not a trap. It is a business offer." Valira stepped forward, claws digging into the canyon floor. "I did not ask for your help." "No," the alien replied, "but you will want the information. The Marauders plan to leave this system within one rotation. When they do, you will not find them again." Valira did not move, did not blink. Jace could feel the change in her, her anger sharpened into a blade of pure focus. "And the cost?" she asked slowly. The Rithari's lips curled slightly. "Small. 1 human." Jace felt a cold chill down his spine. "Well, that ain't suspicious at all." Valira's wings opened wide, a threatening glow flashing under her scales. "You will not take him." "Dracanian," the Rithari said. "You forget what is at stake. Your mate's killers, their location, their command base. All of this can be yours, for 1 human life." Valira bared her teeth. "You insult me." "We make an offer," the alien responded coolly. "Not an insult." "It is both," she said. Jace lowered his rifle slightly and stepped closer to her. "Valira, it's fine. I ain't worth risking information about your mate." She turned sharply toward him, golden eyes blazing. "Do not speak that way," he blinked. "It's true, though." "No," she growled. "You gave me shelter. You helped me stand again. You are worth far more than any information, and I will not trade your life." The Rithari raised a brow. "You choose a human over revenge?" Valira stepped forward, wings lifting high. "I choose honor." Lightning-like energy sparked beneath her scales. The Rithari quickly stepped back, hands raised. "Very well," he said. "If you refuse the offer, we will leave." Jace blinked. "That's it? You leave?" "We do not fight for free," the Rithari replied. "Nor die for free." They returned to their ship. The silver craft lifted silently and vanished into the sky. Jace let out a slow breath. That could have gone worse. Valira folded her wings. "Yes, but now we know the Marauders will leave soon." "Then we stop them," Jace said. Before Valira could answer, the pirate ship above the canyon roared, its engines glowing brighter. The hull split open, and a large, crate-like structure detached and fell onto the canyon floor with a heavy thud. Jace aimed his rifle. "What in the world is that?" The box began to unfold, metal plates expanding like petals. Valira's eyes widened. "They brought a combat exo-walker." A towering machine rose from the crate, a 10-foot armored suit with rotating cannons and heavy feet that crushed rocks beneath them. Its visor glowed blood red. "That," Jace muttered, "looks unfriendly." The exo-walker stomped forward, shaking the canyon. The remaining pirates cheered weakly, thinking victory was near. Valira flexed her claws. "We must separate it from the ship. It calls for reinforcements." "You distract it," Jace said. "I'll hit its power core from behind." Valira glanced at him. "If it hits you, you will not survive." He gave a half smile. "Then I won't let it hit me." Without another word, Valira launched herself into the air, her wings spread wide, catching the light. She slammed onto the exo-walker's shoulders with a roar. The machine staggered, raising its arms to aim upward, but Valira's claws dug deep into its armor plates. "Come face me!" she roared. The exo-walker swung heavily, trying to shake her off. Laser bursts fired wildly, carving lines across the rock. Jace sprinted along the canyon wall, taking cover behind boulders. When the exo-walker turned fully toward Valira, its back was exposed. "Now's my chance," he whispered. He knelt and aimed at a circular panel glowing faintly blue, the power core. He took a slow breath, then another. then fired. The bolt hit the panel, cracking it open with a burst of sparks. The exo-walker jerked violently. Valira felt the machine shudder. Jace fired again, and again. Each shot weakened the core further. The exo-walker swung its arm toward Jace now, cannons glowing. "Jace!" Valira shouted. He dove behind a rock just as energy blasts scorched the ground where he'd been standing. Valira roared, her voice echoing through the canyon. She drove her claws deep into the machine's neck plates and ripped. With a final metallic scream, the exo-walker collapsed, its lights flickering before going dark. Silence fell. Jace slowly stood, brushing dust from his coat. "Well, that was a big one." Valira leapt down beside him. "Are you hurt?" "Nope," he said with a grin. "Just a little singed." She stared at him for a long moment. "You take too many risks." "And you hit too many machines with your bare hands," he replied. Their banter was interrupted by a new sound. The pirate ship above was moving. Engines roared, lights blazed, the hull tilted away from the canyon. "They're retreating," Jace said. "No," Valira corrected. "They are fleeing." "To where?" he asked. Valira looked up at the sky, her expression dark and fierce. "To their base, to rejoin their leader." Jace looked thoughtful. "Then we follow 'em." Valira turned toward him slowly. "You wish to come with me?" "Course," Jace said simply. "Can't let you chase 'em alone." "You said it yourself, we're in this together." Her eyes softened. "You are unlike any human I have known." He tipped his hat. "Thanks, I think." The pirate ship streaked away, leaving smoke trails drifting across the sky. Valira unfolded her wings. "We must move quickly, before they vanish." Jace nodded. "Then let's get back to the ranch, gear up, and go hunt us some marauders." Valira stepped beside him. "Together?" He smiled. "Together." And so the cowboy and the dragon widow began their pursuit. Not as strangers anymore, but as allies bound by danger, respect, and a growing trust neither expected. The suns of Sable Rim began to set as Jace and Valira returned to the ranch outpost. The sky glowed orange and red, the light bending against the horizon like a giant burning shield. The battle at Ember Canyon had shaken the land, and smoke still drifted softly from the distant rocks. But a strange calm followed them now. Valira walked with steady steps, but her mind was busy, filled with questions, memories, and new decisions she never expected to face. Jace walked beside her, his rifle resting across his back, dust covering his coat and boots. He didn't say much, but his presence was solid, like a supportive wall she could lean on if she needed. Inside the outpost, the lights flickered on. Jace went straight to the console and checked the scanners. "Pirate ship is leaving orbit," he said. "Looks like they're heading toward the outer moons." Valira nodded. "Then their base must be there." Jace glanced at her. "You ready to follow?" She stepped closer to the window, staring at the sky. For a long moment she didn't answer. Her claws curled lightly. The glow under her scales dimmed. Jace studied her face, seeing something new, hesitation. "You don't have to go," he said gently. Valira turned sharply. "This is my duty." "Maybe so," Jace replied calmly. "But duty ain't the same as need. You only go if your heart still says go." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Valira was a warrior, trained in strength and certainty, but now her certainty wavered. "It is not fear," she said quietly. "It is something else." "Then tell me," Jace said. "What's holding you?" Valira's golden eyes softened. "Revenge has been my only path since my mate died. I have walked through storms, crossed systems, and fought battles with nothing else inside me. But here, I found something different." Jace folded his arms. "Different how?" She looked at him, really looked. "You helped me with no demand. You fought beside me with no fear. You gave me a place to rest, even though I was a stranger and a danger to you." He shrugged. Seemed like the right thing. "To humans," she said softly. "Perhaps. But among my kind, such kindness is rare." Jace leaned against the counter. "So now you're wondering if revenge is still worth the cost." Valira nodded once. "If I continue the hunt, I walk toward darkness. If I turn away, I must face a new life, and I do not know which path honors my mate more." Jace didn't answer immediately. He took off his hat, set it on the table, and looked at her with calm eyes. "Your mate wanted you safe," he said simply. "That's why he put you in that escape pod. That's why he made sure you lived. Maybe honor ain't about chasing their killers forever. Maybe honor is living the life he wanted you to keep." Valira's chest tightened. She stepped back slightly. "You speak like you know our traditions." "Don't need to," he replied softly. "I just know grief. Lost people, too. Sometimes the bravest thing ain't fighting. Sometimes it's moving forward." The room grew quiet. The heater hummed softly. Outside, the wind whispered across the plains. Valira finally spoke. "But if they escape, they will hurt others." "Then we stop 'em," Jace said. "Not for revenge, for protecting folks." Valira lifted her head. "Protecting, not avenging." "Big difference," Jace said. "One keeps you going, the other breaks you." She breathed slowly, letting his words settle inside her. She felt something shift, a heavy stone inside her beginning to lighten. "Very well," she said. "We hunt them not for vengeance, but for justice." Jace smiled softly. "That's the spirit." They spent the next hour preparing. Jace packed his small ship, the Sun Chaser, a simple but reliable transport he rarely used. Valira helped reinforce the hull with metal plates found in the storage shed. Her claws shaped the pieces with ease, cutting them like thick leaves. Jace tightened bolts, connected wiring, and made quick adjustments to the engine. "You really trust this ship?" Valira asked, tapping its side. "More than I trust half the folks on this planet," Jace joked. "It looks small." "Small is good," he said. "Means fast. Means quiet. Means it'll fit between the rocks of those moons." Valira raised a brow. "You have flown it before?" Jace hesitated. "Once." "Only once?" she asked, surprised. He scratched his neck sheepishly. "Well, twice. First time was a test run. Second time was when a herd of sky devils chased me off a ridge." Valira blinked. "And you lived?" "Barely," Jace said with a grin. She shook her head. "Humans are unbelievable." When the ship was ready, Valira stood outside it, staring at the sky. The dying light of evening cast a warm glow across her scales. "Jace," she said softly, "why do you help me?" "Truly?" He paused. "Because when I found you in that storm, something inside me said you weren't meant to die alone in the dust, and ever since then, I figured we make a good team." Valira's chest warmed with a feeling she could barely name. Respect, gratitude, hope, maybe even something deeper, something new. "I am glad you found me," she said. He nodded. "Me too." An hour later, they lifted into the sky. The Sun Chaser hummed gently as it passed through the atmosphere and into orbit. The view of Sable Rim grew smaller beneath them. Valira sat in the co-pilot seat, wings folded, eyes alert. "Scanners detect the pirate ship's trail. They left a weak ion wake." Jace leaned over the controls. "Can we follow it?" "Yes," she answered. "But we must be careful. They will be expecting pursuit." He grinned. "Good thing we're full of surprises." The ship followed the faint trail across the system's edge until the moons came into view, dark, cratered, and covered with thin layers of ice and stone. The pirate ship's signal was faint, but clear now. Valira pointed. "There, on the second moon." They lowered altitude quietly, avoiding the main radar path. Beneath them sat a settlement, metal buildings arranged like a web, lights glowing red and white across the surface. "That's their base," Valera said. Jace leaned closer to the window. "Lot of guards, lot of guns. Too many for a direct attack," she said. "Then we sneak in," Jace replied. Valera looked at him. Humans are not known for silent approaches. "You ain't seen me chase drones yet," Jace said proudly. She almost smiled. The sun chaser landed behind a ridge on the moon's dark side. They stepped out, the ground crunching beneath their boots and claws. The air was thin and cold, though their suits protected them. Jace checked his gear. "You ready?" Valera nodded. "Always." They moved down the ridge, sticking to shadows, avoiding lights. Jace led with quiet footsteps, surprising even Valera. He navigated sharp rocks and narrow ledges with careful skill. "You are more used to danger than you admit," Valera whispered. Jace grinned. "Frontier does that to a man." They approached a side tunnel leading into the base. Valera scanned the door. "Weak security here. This is for storage." "Storage works fine," Jace said. "Let's slip in." They entered the tunnel silently. Torches and small lights lined the walls. Voices echoed nearby. Jace motioned for quiet. They moved deeper until Valera stopped suddenly, lifting a hand. Footsteps. Close. Jace ducked behind a crate. Valera pressed against the wall. Two pirates walked past, laughing and arguing. Valera watched them carefully, her claws ready, but she didn't attack. When they were gone, Jace whispered, "Good control." "Not everything must be solved by claws," she said. They reached a large chamber, a command hall. Screens glowed with star maps and communications. At the center stood the pirate leader, a tall armored figure with a cape of metal strips. Valera's eyes narrowed. "That is him." Jace steadied his rifle. "Then let's end this." She placed a claw on his rifle gently. "Together." He nodded. They stepped into the chamber. The leader turned. "The widow arrives at last." Valera moved forward with slow, powerful steps. Jace circled around toward the control consoles. "You ran from the battle," Valera said. "Now you answer for your crimes." The leader lifted his weapon. "You should have stayed dead, dragon." Valera's wings opened wide. "And you should not have chased me." The fight exploded into motion. Valera crashed into the leader, claws clashing against metal. Sparks flew. Jace disabled the alarms, then fired at the guards trying to join the fight. Valera fought with controlled fury, each strike guided by honor, not revenge. The leader realized too late that she was stronger now, emotionally steady, no longer blinded by grief. With one final strike, Valera disarmed him, slamming him onto the ground. "This," she said quietly, "is justice." The leader fell still. Jace hurried to her side. "You okay?" She breathed deeply. "Yes, it is finished." "Then let's get out of here," Jace said. She nodded, stepping close. "Jace, thank you. Anytime." They escaped the base just as alarms finally triggered. The sun chaser lifted into the sky, leaving the moon behind. Inside the ship, Valera stared ahead, her expression calm, even hopeful. "What now?" Jace asked. She turned to him. "Now. I am no longer lost." Jace smiled. "Then come along." Valera gave a soft, deep laugh. "Yes, human cowboy. I will." Together, they flew toward a new horizon, dragon widow and human rancher, beginning a path forward that neither had ever imagined.